Hello and welcome to the Hutt River Course here in Wellington on a beautiful, fine and sunny day for the second ever running of the World Jetsprint Championship. Now, if you haven't seen one before, think about this. 700 horsepower in a boat 12 feet 6 long on a tight and twisty course where often the water is just 2 inches deep. Believe me, it's harder even than it looks. Let's meet some of the leading drivers for the 89 World Champs. Defending champion Rodney Pohio. He's from Christchurch and running a Sonic Pro Sprint with 400 cubic inch Chev and 2-stage Hamilton. John Watson from Christchurch in the same boat, an experienced marathon runner but relatively inexperienced at sprinting. Kelly Lebron from Whangarei in a 12'6" Mackraft with 400 Chevy, highly modified, and going through a 3-stage Hamilton. Bruce Street from Christchurch in a 13'6" Hamilton, alloy hull running 400 Chevy and 3-stage Hamilton. Eric Hoxema from Palmerston North. It's a 13-foot alloy cut-down Hamilton with 400 Chevy injected and running a 3-stage Hamilton. Let's look now at the highlights of the last 16. Colin McCall on the course now in the little Hamilton 132 Donovan Chev motor, somewhere around 700 horsepower, sharing this boat with Ken Macdonald, and they have both been on superb pace.
Yeah, well, this was the ex-Howard Smith engine last year that really did show the grunt, but the biggest problem with a lot of horsepower is keeping it in the track. But Colin's a very, very steady driver. He's put up some very fast times yesterday and today. It was pretty close. It's a real handful being so short with so much horsepower.
12'6" and 700 horsepower. Believe me, that's tough going.
You notice a lot of these drivers have got their wives now. What's the reason behind that? Is it because they're usually lighter? Oh, that was... Now he's away. Colin will pick it up. He will pick it up from there. Come on, Colin.
Just trying to get the steering. He might have a stone caught in there. Just looking at that again. One of the very, very tricky parts of the course, and just overdid it. Got the tail in the wrong direction. It spun up on him. And he got a grill full of stones, which meant he had no forward power. He stopped it to lose that, and he had no steering. On course now, Robert White in his round of 16 came in with a 56 dead.
See, Tony, they come from a long way to do these sprinting. Robert's away from the bottom of the country in the Cargill way, so they certainly do come a long way. That boat's been handling very, very well, the Mackraft it is. They've been a really good performer. As you know, Kelly Lebron just put up the fastest time so far in the qualifier.
One of the hard things about this course is that you've got to cross your own weight 4 or 5 times in the space of it, and some hulls are upset by that more than others.
That's right, the crossing of your own weight. Some hulls suit it and some don't. The Mackrafts tend to bounce around when they hit the weight, but they're very, very light, very short.
He's getting around here in good pace. 31.9 was the split, which should bring him round at about 55, 56.
There it is, at 57.87.
Eric Hoxema on course now in his round of 16. 55.92 he came in with. 13-foot alloy, cut down Hamilton 132, 400 cubic inch Chev.
I'd say Eric's one of the 6 or 7 top North Island sprinters here today from North Island. He's had a lot of hull changes, boat change, but now he does seem to be pretty satisfied with what he's got now.
And this 400 cubic inch Chev motor, fuel injected, Brodix heads, and running 3-stage Hamilton.
This number 12 going into this gate here, around that corner. If you don't get that turn right, it's all over. You're up on the bank. But no, Eric got it spot on.
31.57 the split.
It's a fairly fast split time too. Sometimes you notice the harder they try, the rougher they get, the slower they get. So here we go. That's Eric at 56.47. Excellent.
Fella here who's attracted the name recently of Mad Dog, Wayne Keenan, very aggressive driver, and we mean it in the nicest possible way.
But I tell you, to be a good driver in this game, you have to be aggressive, and Wayne's certainly extremely aggressive. He's just put a new Donovan 400 aluminium engine in there, so he's real keen to do very well here today.
And he really came from nowhere to do a 55.6, which is a very competitive time.
I think even when the Mad Dog gets mad, he's going to put a better time than that up, don't you? He has been sprinting for a long time. He's one of the top competitors in the North Island. He even went down to the South Island last year. So he's got a lot of sprinting behind him. And he's very determined out here with his new Donovan to do very, very well. The hull's handling very good too. I think he's still got a lot of speed up his sleeve.
Somewhere between 650 and 700 horsepower out of these Donovan motors.
And that's an exceptionally good time, 55.97.
That puts him third at the moment, 55.97. Excellent. Albert Hoxima now, 56.09, and then he brought it down to a 55.3 dead.
Interesting to see how this boat, what time it puts up, you know, two different drivers in the same boat. They all drive differently. They have slightly different techniques.
But a 55.3 got him into this round, and he's overdone it. So everything going beautifully for Albert Hoxima until it was overdone. And unfortunately, he's eliminated.
If you look here, he crosses his own wake. He's going a wee bit fast, and when he hits that wake, turning into gate 5, he just loses it. It's just starting to hit that bit of water there as he turns.
Hard luck in the end of the day for Albert Hoxima. Now here's the defending world champion, Rodney Pohio.
Rodney is a very, very cool driver. He drives very nice, very smooth. He never gets hassled.
And we should tell you that earlier in the day he put a 53.81 on the board and then a 54.04 to get into this round. So make no mistake, this is a 400 cubic inch Chev, and he's just running a Holly 800 on top. No fancy fuel injection or turbocharge or supercharging. He says that 440, 420 horsepower is about enough. Comes down to the driver.
Definitely power to weight. His sister's very, very light. He's quite a light fella. And Rodney really does throw this boat around nicely.
Sister Joanne navigating again. He's so smooth, though. Really is a bright young prospect. Very quiet young gentleman, but an excellent driver. And look at the time coming up, 52.72. Quickest time of the day. Superb. Graham Gale on course now, 55.55, brought him to the round of 32, then 56.84.
So this guy's out to do a good time. It's another Mackraft. Does throw a lot of spray out, but by you can really throw them around and they do well. He's just planted it.
Hard luck for Graham Gale. Just got it wide. Then he got off the power. She sunk on him. No way out.
Here we go now.
On course now is Ken Macdonald.
Ken Macdonald, another very good driver. He's won the world champion Jet River Racing 1986. I hear he's going to be married this next week, so that's something new. But he's just done a Colin McCall or a
Same place,
Seamer.
same way. Now this eliminates the boat completely too, because the other driver of the boat, Colin McCall, had an off as well. So that's one of the top competitive boats now out, Ken Macdonald. Now Bruce Street on the course, and the time to beat is 60.28, the 8th slowest so far.
I think you'll find Bruce will just do a nice clean run. He's been putting up good times. His last time was a 54.37, so if he can do a 55, 56, he nearly gave it away to gate 5 like everybody else do.
It's getting tough out there on that turn.
The biggest problem out here is if you slow down, you tend to draw more water, and next thing you know, you're on the ground.
Let's see how he gets around this little tight infield.
The AC Delco sprint boat's been winning a lot of sprints, did most of the wins over the last 6 or 8 months. It's a Hamilton 132, runs a 400 Chevy, downdraft to Lordos, alloy Brodex heads, and he's going for a good clean run.
Okay, we know he's capable of 56s. Looking at the timer now, 55.55, displaces Phil Hartridge. Last to run now, Peter Lane. He's had a 61.7 and a 58.65, and he's on borderline because he needs to beat 58.27, and he's not going to do it from there. Well, he had to keep moving it because he needed to beat better than his best time. Just got a little untidy. And once that drops off the plane there, that's it. Rodney Pohio is the defending world champion. How much pressure's on you?
Always expected to be at the top, which is pressure, but we have to try not to think about it because that'll be the make and break as far as we're concerned.
What do you think of the circuit this year? It has changed just slightly, hasn't it?
It's definite improvement over last year. It's got a bit of everything. It's got deep water, shallow water, tight corners and long straights, and it suits. There's no particular boat it does suit, so it's going to be really fair.
It's a navigator's course. It's one that they've got to be on the ball, and it's a real memory course, but it's good fun, and I only hope I can keep getting it right like we have so far.
You're over your own wakes a lot as you come round a corner. It hasn't got time to settle down. It's pretty short. I think we'll be down to 50 seconds or a wee bit under that by the end of tomorrow.
There's a couple of quite nasty corners in places where you have to be careful. The currents, you drop over the edge of the lip and you grip down and you've got to turn. Sometimes you tend to go backwards. You've got to be really on the ball.
Mark, just for those who don't understand what a jet unit does, explain the propulsion for us.
It's very simple. It takes in the water in through the bottom of the boat. There's a jet unit grill. It has impellers inside what they call these stators, and finally it straightens the water through a tailpiece, and then it comes out through the steering nozzle. And the direction of the boat is determined on which angle we steer it. And of course, if we have no water, we have no steerage, or motor stops, we have no steerage, but simply the direction of which way we turn the water steers the boat.
And looking at the internals of that jet unit, what's inside the housing?
Yes, well, it has impellers. This is a Hamilton 3-stage jet unit which has 3 bronze impellers. We hard tip the blades with tungsten so they can handle a few stones in a day with a couple of drivers, and it really does no damage to the blades. The blades are running in what they call a stator, which has got a stainless ring around the outside which basically compresses the water, straightens the water and goes into your next blade. So there's 3 blades in this Hamilton 3-stage, and then it comes out through the steering nozzle, which, as you can see, the turning of the steering nozzle is what direction the boat turns.
So the only method you've got of steering the boat is power, driving water through that.
That's right, hands-on wheel of motor going.
And if you lose power, you've got nothing.
Absolutely nothing at all, Tony.
56.31 brought him in.
Well, John's a very careful driver because he's driving Rodney Pohio's boat, so he has to let Rodney share the drive halfway through. So all he's after is a clean run, good time. He's got to keep the pressure on, because those other guys are really stacking some time.
Only 4 come out the end of this round, so his 5th fastest he knows he's got to improve on.
He's been putting up good times all weekend. He did a 53.97. He actually did a 52.5 one stage, so he's capable of doing it. He had a split time of 29.90, which is very fast, one of the fastest split times we've seen all day.
That is quick, Mark. That theoretically should bring him out below 55, maybe even 54. Coming down the line, look at the time, 53.87. We thought from the quick split that would be in the low 50s, 53.87.
Make it in quick. The hometown home.
Kelly Lebron, 54.75, second fastest into this round.
Kelly drives a Mackraft 400 Chev 3-stage. Kelly's been a real aggressive driver, but gee, he knows he's got to pedal this machine to get in. He hasn't had a lot of experience with the big-time sprinters, but he's been doing a lot of sprinting in the North Island practicing.
There's only Rodney Pohio's gone quicker.
Well, he had second fastest time in the qualifying times last time, so he knows he still has to push it hard to get through into the final 4.
Look at this little tricky part. He gets into it and around and out. My goodness, he's going over the top. 2 or 3 places on this course. He's just taken the shortcut.
And he had a faster split time. His split time was 29.82, faster than John Watson.
Well, they're picking up the pace. Kelly Lebron, 54.75 into it. See what he stops the clock at, and it's 54.58. The lucky last man into this round, Robert White, with a 57.87. Equal with Mike Phillips to get into the round of 8, so he needs improvement.
Robert's driving another Mackraft, so that's 2 Mackrafts into the final 8. He's really pushing it to get up a good time. His last time was a bit slow, but he's capable of doing 56s, 55s. But I just don't know whether he can get through into those 54s.
You had to wonder last time round if he wasn't on the limits of what the boat will do.
Well, if they go out now, all they can do then is perhaps go to the B10. Then Mackraft really does like the course. It handles well. It's not slippery. Digs in on the corners. I think he's slightly down on time at 55.24, but that's one of the best times he's done in the last 3 rounds.
Eric Hoxima on the course now, 6th fastest into this round with 56.47. Time to beat at the moment is 55.24.
I don't think Eric's got much better. He did a 55.92, so he's really got to hammer this machine round to do a fast time to get into the final 4. He's got to really bet at 55.24 or he won't be there. I must admit this new hull is really handling well. It doesn't wallow on the corners. It does nothing wrong.
And that part of the course he's got really sorted, hasn't he?
He certainly has. That's another hull. Weaving wide on that corner there. No, he's really going for it. He had a pretty good split time, 30.35. Weave it down, but he's right up on there on the pace.
Looking at that clock now, counting down 53, 54, 54.95.
Well done, Eric.
So he's in at the moment. Here's the fellow we've been rudely calling Mad Dog, Wayne Keenan. 55.6 and 55.97. He needs 54.95 or better to get in.
I'll tell you what, he certainly knows how to drive a jet boat. He's got all the power in the world in the back there with that 400 Donovan, aluminium, very light. Probably producing the best part of 600 horsepower.
And good flexible power too from the Donovan build engines.
Probably the best power to weighting that you can put in a boat. But I must admit they're reasonably expensive to buy.
You wouldn't want to break too many, would you?
Certainly would. Mad Dog really cranking into those corners. He is slowing down. He's pushing a bit hard. And the boat, he just about gave it away there, Tony.
The split time's 30.1, so he's a little down. He needs to make it up in the second half. 54.95 to beat.
And he's not going to do it. We're looking at a 55.30.
Now Christchurch's pride and joy, the defending world champion, Rodney Pohio, the pace setter in the last round with a 52.72. Quickest time of the day. He knows when to bring out the hot performance. This little Sonic handling beautifully. 400 cubic inch sheave, just carburetted.
Rodney's a very, very smooth driver. Nothing sort of baffles him. He knows he has to put up a good time, and he's been putting up good times. He holds the fastest time in the last 2 runs.
Have a look at the record, 53.81, 54.04, 52.72.
And his split time was 29.13, which is the fastest so far today.
He's the guy to beat, no question.
I think the only guy out here today that could probably give him a run for his money is Bruce Street, but we'll have to see what happens at the end of the day.
Looking at the clock there, 52.64, so he can improve. Quickest time of the day again, 52.64 for Pohio, the pace setter. Bruce Street now, 3rd fastest qualifier into this round with a 55.55. Came down from the previous round of 58.02, but earlier in the day had done a 54.3.
I think Bruce has to really push it this time and do under a 55 to get into the good times. Otherwise, he's just not going to qualify into the 8. Bruce can do it. I think the boat's got a lot up its sleeve.
I think just banging the bottom a little in that early part.
Yeah. Well, he's got to cut those corners. The shorter way around the course, the quicker.
He has got round that little piece of the circuit all day. Very, very well indeed.
I noticed the split time's very close to Rodney at 29.34, so he's right there on the pace. He knows he has to do it, and I'm sure Bruce can handle it.
Pohio's time, remember, 52.64. Let's look at it as he comes up. 53.47. Last equal into this round, Mike Phillips. 57.87 brought him in. 7th equal place. And now he's got to beat Kelly Lebren's time of 54.58 to stay in for the next round of 4. Cutthroat competition in a sprint, halving the field with each round.
I don't think Mike's going to get it. He hasn't really put up a better time today than around the 57s, 56s, but I must admit the boat's handling well. It looks nice on the water, but still this is what the eliminations are all about. Split time was 31.58, which is down on Kelly's at 29.82, so he's looking to not quite beat Kelly to the finish line.
Keep an eye on that clock. He's got to beat 54.58 to stay in the hunt. And I think he's going to be lucky. No, he's outside, so he's eliminated. 56.27 the time.
Obviously, with all this horsepower and tough competition, we need some safety features in these boats. Paul Kinsman, what are the basics?
The basics are, Tony, the roll bar. We've got a very strong, robust roll bar, and we have fireproof seats with 3-port mounted safety belts.
If you actually have a rollover or a fire, we have a kill switch here.
Yes, Tony, there's a kill switch here on both sides of the roll bar and for the crash crew, and another one inside the boat for the driver and navigator.
And for the navigator, some neck brace?
The navigator, we have a neck brace, which is absolutely essential with G-forces the way they are, plus a good waterproof life jacket and arm restraints here, and also this helmet, which is a full-face safety helmet.
So 4 into that tough competition. Rodney Pohio with 52.64, Bruce Street with 53.47, John Watson with 53.87, and Kelly Lebren 54.58. First up in the semi-final is John Watson, 53.87, third fastest qualifier.
John's a very, very smooth driver. He's had a lot of running in this boat with Rodney. You just see he knows the pressure's on because Bruce put the pressure on, jumped in between him and Rodney.
First and third fastest times in the same boat.
Pretty good. The boat handles nicely. It likes, you know, going over its own wake. It's very clean around the corners. I just noticed it's got a bit of engine mist there, Tony, when he sort of accelerates coming out of some of the corners.
Yeah, it's not running clean, is it? Might not bode well for Rodney Pohio. Is still to come and is the pace setter.
He had a reasonably good split time at 29.28, slightly behind Bruce, but and behind a wee bit quicker than his last time too.
I think there's going to be some fast and furious work on that motor. 52.7. Kelly Lebren now, 54.58, was the 4th fastest into this round.
Kelly's really got to give it to her. He can't afford to give too much away. He's got to really push it out because he's 4th fastest qualifier, so he has not a lot to lose, but he gets real aggressive. He actually performs better when he's wild.
He's got to be aiming at the 52s too. It's going to be a tough task.
Must admit that little Mackraft certainly throws some water up, but Kelly's getting good at driving it, and he's right out there to give it the best time. He's got a split time of 28.63.
That's the quickest so far.
That's the quickest split time of the day. Just let's see if he finishes.
Well, we thought they might get down to 50 seconds. He's on target to do that if he can keep the second half as fast as the first.
Look at this, Tony. 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. Look at that, 52.58.
52.58's the quickest so far. 52.71 for John Watson. Here's the man of the moment, the pace setter, the defending champion, Rodney Pohio. 52.64, his last round time. He needs to beat 52.71, and he's not going to do it. End of the chances of the defending champion. Just looking at it again, gassed up. Got a little close, clipped the bank. The back came round on him. She plonked back down in the water. And no way out of there, too shallow. Hard luck for Rodney Pohio. It won't be 2 in a row. Well, Mark Cromie, an anxious moment here for you. A couple of your motors still in, and there's we've got to make 2 out of 3.
I tell you, Bruce has really got to go for it, but I must admit, he has got the means of going for it. He's won a lot of sprints. He's won something like, that boat's won 13 out of 15 starts, so he's got it there. AC Delco with Bruce driving and Mark Tell, the navigator, he's got to stack it on. He's not going to win unless he puts every little inch out.
As we said, you're not in the hunt without 52s. He needs to beat 52.71 to put John Watson out. At a 53.47.
The boat's usually very clean until now. He's cut every peg, every corner, a winning post, and that's what he's got to do. That boat's got to come out of this dented its sides in, because if it's dented in, it's really performing. Hulls of Hamilton 132, weighs about 280 pounds, 1.5 mil sides.
28.73 to split, so he's on pace to be up there with Kelly Elebron.
He's slightly off Kelly's time, though. Kelly did a 28.67. But he could still beat John out of it. So it could be Kelly and Bruce.
Watch it as it comes down. He's got to beat 52.71.
53.39. He's out.
Here we go.
Hard luck there for Bruce Street. So the finalists are John Watson and Kelly Elebron.
He's out of it.
So just before we get to the final, let's have a look at that little mistake that eliminated last year's champion, Rodney Pohio, the very clever young driver from Christchurch, driving the same boat as John Watson. The boat's still in, but he is out. Most unfortunate for him, looking from another angle here. The tiniest of mistakes, as you will see. And a jet sprint at this level can put you out completely. Once you get it off the plane and down in the murk, there's no way you can get out of it. That's it for Rodney. So our finalists are Kelly Elebron, 52.58, and John Watson, 52.71. Awfully close. So down to the final now, Kelly Elebron. He gets the choice of going first with the fastest time into the final. 52.58 he had. He's got to continue to drive aggressively.
He certainly throws that boat around. He has nothing to lose. He's either going to get first or second in the world at the moment. So he's really got to fit still. He's got to put up a good time. And I must admit, it's probably a wee bit bad he has to go first, because the other guy knows what time to beat.
He's thundering out those banks, taking it tight.
I tell you, if he gets around, it'll really look at that split time, 28.48. That's a faster split time than before, Tony.
So he's on course for the low 52s.
Yes. I'll tell you, he's really getting wild out there. He's dealing to that river.
Well, if he
there
gets
he goes. He's going to do it too.
If he gets a low 52 time, that's the challenge putting up.
And he's done it. Look at this, 52.52. He beat it last time's time, 52.52.
Well, if ever John Watson had a challenge, this is it. Last to go, and he's got to beat 52.52, which is better than he's done all weekend.
Kelly's put the fastest time up today, the fastest split time. I know John will really push this machine hard, but just can he do it? Can he beat Kelly's time? That's what we're going to look at.
What a way to have to finish. To become the world champion, to have to go in the final, run last, and beat the quickest time that we've seen all day.
I'll tell you what, he's driving really hard. Let's look at his split time. We'll check his split time very shortly. 28.62. He's down on the split time, just slightly off Kelly.
Just 0.2 down on that split. If he can make it up in the second half, but that's an awfully fast time to beat. Quicker than he's been all weekend, 52.52. As he gets to the last couple here, clipping it round, getting urged on by the crowd. He's right out wide on the side of the bank there, running it down, 51.69, and he wins.
He wins. John wins it at 61 point.
51.69, the world champion, John Watson.
I think we need a drum roll as well.
Wow, quicker than he had been all weekend, holding something up his sleeve. 51.69 wins the world championship for 1989. John, an amazing last run. Did you feel under pressure when Kelly had put up such a quick time?
Oh, well, I certainly had, because up until that time I was, you know, I think about 0.20 of a second behind, and I knew it had to be a good run to get there.
Did you seriously think you'd get into the 51s?
No, not at the start of the day, but it's quite amazing, you know, as the day went on, the course blew out and we got a bit more familiar with it, and I felt very confident as the day went on.
You found in the very last stages of that last run, you seemed to find some better water out wide. You were taking a different line.
Yeah, that's right. I found over there on the southern bank there was a nice piece of water in the boat. The boat was very quick down there. In fact, we were rubbing the bank as we're coming along that far bank.
And so the final result, John Watson is the World Jet Sprint Champion for 1989 with a phenomenal time of 51.69 done on the last run. Kelly Elebrim with 52.52, the second fastest time, and third fastest of the day, Rodney Pohio, 52.64.
And
welcome to Canterbury's Waimakariri River for what has become a very popular annual event, the Europa Jet Sprint. And who would have thought that Hamilton's New Zealand invention would have ended up looking like this? The boat is less than 2 metres long and runs a Donovan Chev 400 cubic inch V8 alloy block, methanol injection running 670, 700 odd horsepower. Really a phenomenal power to weight ratio. Some of the top competitors, though, are not running quite that much horsepower. This is the boat that won the World Championship recently in Wellington. It's a Sonic Pro Sprint hull, co-driven by Rodney Pohio and John Watson. Pohio on that occasion spun out and Watson was the eventual world champion. As you can see, it's running a lot less horsepower, just a single 800 Holly carburetor under here. And Rodney Pohio takes the view that the extra horsepower doesn't matter too much. In an event like this, it comes down to driver skill. But there are many top competitors here who would dispute that on the basis that in any motorsport there is no substitute for horsepower.
At this stage, it's early days yet, but it looks to be very, very demanding in places. But there's a few places where definitely the faster boats, with the long legs, are definitely going to come out on top.
So, you can have all the power in the world out there, but it's not going to do you any good if you don't use it at exactly the right time.
well, I think it has got its straights, but unless you can keep that horsepower in the water, it's not going to be a lot of use to you.
Ken, what are your views on the course?
Oh, I like this course. It's good. It's fairly open. It's tight, but it's we go into it and we come out the other end. We're not doing too much squiggling. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a great course. Yeah.
There's a bit of scope for the brave in there, is there?
Yeah, it certainly is. It's at the beginning there, through gate 3 and 4. It's very tight.
On the course now, Robert White, who qualified in at 1:17.02.
I noticed Tony Roberts is a very aggressive driver. He has to better his time. He's lacking way back. His last run was at 1:17.02, which really isn't fast enough to qualify him into the 8.
12'3" Mackraft, 400 Chevy.
It looks like these 400 Chevys are here today to really deal with the river conditions. It's very shallow out there a lot of places. That's round gate 5. He crosses the shallows into 6, across into 7.
36.38 the split. Give you an indication of how they're going on the way.
All he has to do is do a nice clean run, and the Mackraft is a boat that's well suited to this type of course. It's very tight in places, very shallow, and the boat's not very long.
You'll see as the day goes on, there are a few places there in that little back straight where you can straight line the corners a little.
Yeah, but I don't think, Tony, it's time to do that. I think now it's just a matter of getting around with a reasonable time to try and qualify into the 8.
Down to the finish line there, 1:11.98. Pretty respectable at this time of day, 1:11.98 for Robert White. And as we get to Peter Lane, we have dropped the qualifying times. He came in at 1:14.9. The two before him in the 16s and 17s.
Peter's driving a Hamilton 132 aluminium boat, very light, special purpose built, and he's parked it.
Well, just 17 seconds into his run, and he's parked it. That's going to be a DNF at this level of competition. You cannot afford that. So easy to do on this early part of the circuit. Many of the drivers in qualifying have gone off at this same place. The corners, the angles of them, very deceptive in getting into and out of them. Just overdid it. The tail came round. It's down on the ground. Curtains. Chris Gifkins from Timaru with his wife Pearl navigating. The Hamilton 132.
These hulls are very good. They stay on top of the water when they go into corners.
And this is another one, Mark, with the 400 Chevy. It seems like anyone's got a 400 Chevy in it.
Yeah, well, that's right. They just have that cubic inches to drive jet units around.
Being an alloy block helps. The power-to-weight ratio ends up being very, very good, particularly when you start working the top end with flash heads and methanol injection and some of the other tricks that these fellas are using.
Yeah, this boat's just performed reasonably well in Wellington just recently, but more suited for this type of course, I feel.
Just over 36 for the split. So he's on time for around a 111, maybe 112.
I think, Tony, they'll have to do about a 110 or so to actually qualify. There's still a lot of fast boats that haven't been through yet.
No shortage of people willing to predict that we might get down to a minute or under by the end of the day. It'd be intriguing to see because Rodney Pohio's already done a 64. 112.42, so a relatively slow second half. 112.42 for Chris Gifkins. On course now, Mark Terry from Balclutha. Navigating for him is his wife Barbara.
This boat's a very nicely prepared boat. It looks really well on the water. It handles corners well. He's actually been running all day. Very straight, very clean.
It's an Aitchison sprint hull, 12'6" long, and another 400 cubic inch this time, not a Chevy, it's a Ford.
I see he did a 113 last time, and I really feel that this boat's got a lot more potential than what they're doing with it. I notice he's running a methanol injected Ford V8. There's not that many Fords out here today, but very few. It's very shallow around that top corner around there. 35.26 for a split, which is a second faster than anything else today, so he looks like he's in the hunt.
This actually puts him down in the 110s. If the second half of it can be completed as tidily as the first, he might even go under 110 here. And that's about the sort of pace you're going to need.
The boat handles all these corners very well. There was a good low shot there, and it was very good through that channel. Looked very shallow through the finish line.
Yeah, he's under it just 19.98. Let's just watch the progress now of Eddie McKenzie in the Mackraft. He's a paraplegic and drives with a hand control, basically throttling with his thumb, which is quite hard when you're opening 4 big Webbers.
Yeah, it certainly is, Tony, but I tell you, he's an aggressive driver and he always does extremely well out here on sprinting. He comes a long way, comes all the way from the bluff where the real oysters are, and that Mackraft are built in the bluff, so he does a lot of sprinting down there, and he's very, very experienced at it.
Very well-known name, McKenzie, in the sprinting business. 35.34.
The Mackrafts, there's a lot of Mackrafts in today, I notice. You know, they handle the course well, they cut into the pegs well, they're nice light, they're a purpose-built sprint boat.
Seem to handle crossing the wake too. Running down that time. There's the minute, 101 up, 35.34 the split, should bring him out around 110,
and he's picked up shingle right at that corner. Now that jet unit's like a vacuum cleaner, it just shows you. Look at that. Now you can see exactly what happens to this boat. He comes around the corner. He's got good control over it through that number 13. He's cutting it around very fine. He's got to have a good fine line. The finer the line, the faster around the course. Now what he does is just cuts this peg just a bit. There it is. The boat leaps out of the water and picks up a lot of gravel right on that corner there, and that's the end of him.
Now let's see if Bruce Collins can get the same boat around that Eddie McKenzie failed to get around.
And I see Bruce's navigator, his wife Sue, in the boat. She's probably nice and light. He's nice and light. The boat's light. That's what it is, power to weight ratio. They've got to get this Mackraft round the course as fast as they can. They've got to qualify into the 8.
Actually unusual to see Eddie McKenzie run aground as he did.
Yeah, well, he never really has problems, but the Mackraft, you know, it's a driver error and it's really hard, and you're psyched up to get out there on the course to do the best. There's a lot of people out there looking at you, and you've just got to be cool. It's pretty shallow out there in that course, Tony. It's, you know, some of those corners, the boat gets skittery because it gets lift when it goes over the shallows. You've got to remember this jet unit's just like a big vacuum cleaner. It's sucking in the water, blowing it out the back, and that's the only way you got the steerage around the course, is the direction of the water. There he is, he's doing it. He went a wee bit wide around there this time in the boat, but he was just playing it safe, and I think he's done a good enough time to qualify. 1:10.52.
Greg Tulett on course now, and Hamilton 132A. This with a 350 share supercharged. He's had a bit of a bad day, actually. He's had a couple of offs. Luckily, he managed to record a time of 1:10.98, which got him in. And has been driving with a sprained ankle, which hasn't helped his chances either. Certainly was very nervy early on this morning and thought this course really had some potential dangers in it, some hazards. Very easy to run aground on it. They certainly should have the instant horsepower and the torque. That's the quickest split time we've seen so far. So he might go down under 1:10. The number of people falling out of this event, 1:10 might be enough to get them in now. Just see what he can do with the last couple of corners in this course. Greg Tulett, the young driver, whom I think has got a big future in the sport. Oh, 1:09.72, that's good time. 1:09.72 for Greg Tulett. So from the round of 16, that's half the runners. From the original field, however, some ended up where they didn't want to be. Here's our co-commentator, Mark Cromie, in his Hamilton 132 with a 400 Chevy. And he's got our sports cam aboard to give you a driver's point of view to see what his wife Cheryl has got to do in the way of navigating. By the end of the day, of course, they're getting familiar enough with this little circuit to know where it goes, but the navigator has a lot of work to do, unlike several sprints. You hear it there bouncing across the shingle. Pulling about 5,000 revs. .35.46 for the split, puts him right on the pace. He's seen what other people have done, and he's a cunning competitor. He knows that 1:10 or thereabouts will get him in with the number of DNFs we've had. But only half of the 16, of course, go through to the next round. Cutthroat competition. Onto the last little corner now, and then he heads up to the finish line. Little kick down to the finish line, 1:08.66. That puts him comfortably in. And now we're into the really quick competitors. Colin McCall.
Colin's had a lot of experience sprinting. No, it's a Hamilton 123. It's got a new Donovan 400 Chevy, methanol injected. It's running about 700 horsepower. It is a handful, but Colin's probably the most experienced guy able to handle it.
It's an intriguing motor, actually. The Donovan Chev is something quite commonly used in speedway sprint cars. And 670, 700 horsepower is no problem with the methanol injection. The power-to-weight ratio of this little boat is just amazing.
Yeah, but it does suffer. It wallows a wee bit on the corners when you go over its own weight. But he's certainly got the straight line speed, is what you need too.
That's the fastest split so far, 34.20. So expect him down the end at about 1.6 something.
Yeah, I think he'll be in the 1.5. Colin doesn't back off. He's got to try hard. If you back off, you miss a corner or you lose your concentration.
Getting this last little piece of the course here sorted now. Around this bit and down to the finish line.
That little boat has a bit of trouble, see, crossing its own weight, but it certainly put up 108.58, so he lost his ground on the last one home.
The young man from Christchurch, as always, setting the pace. A very, very skillful driver, Rodney Pohio, the quickest qualifier into this round.
Rodney's been driving the Sonic now for a long time, a couple of years. He's got very experienced. It's actually his own boat now in motor combination. The boat just won the Worlds in Wellington. You know, it's right up there on the pace. It's fastest times up, going up all day.
They run a 400 Chevy as well, but not with as much horsepower. It's nothing flash. It's running a single 800 Holly carb on it, but he reckons it's around 450, 460 horsepower, not the 700 that the Donovan Chev's getting. 33 is a very, very quick split time. And just watch how smoothly Rodney Pohio gets round this circuit. He looks like he's going slow.
Yeah, but it shows you when the boat's tidy and straight lining it and putting the... You've got to go the straightest way around the course. It's definitely the quickest.
He is amazing, though, how easy he makes it look, isn't he?
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, he parked it up the other day, but he doesn't park very often. He's really... Look at that. No problems at all. And look at the time. It's 105.98. Just slightly slower than Ken Macdonald, but nothing much in it.
So there are our 8 qualifiers out of the round of 16. Ken Macdonald, the quickest qualifier by just, and that's whisker over Rodney Pohio, and those two certainly setting the pace. The others, Morrell, McKenzie, Ross Kircher, Colin McCall, Mark Cromie, Greg Tulett, and Mark Terry.
Part of it initially looks very, very hard to get any flow into.
Yeah, the first and the last gates are the hardest to remember. Sort of in one and out another and in another. That's probably the most complicated part. 2, 3 and 4 are just pretty basic. All the middle numbers up the top there, you just got to look for them. They're easy to see. They're really good to see, actually. Just stay on the right-hand side and, you know, give the driver a good clear signal of where he's going.
Mark Terry, who was the 8th fastest qualifier of the 8, at a 1:09.98, which came off a split of 35.26.
This is a nicely painted Fletcher steel boat. It looks really good. It handles well. It's got a different sort of a nose on it. It's very rounded, quite deep V. He's got a bit of a problem. He's got to really increase his speed because he's got to get down into about the 1.7s, I would say, to qualify.
That's about the cut-off point on the pace that we've seen so far. 1.7.5 is probably going to be the outside limit. And the split was too slow at 38.
He really handles that boat nicely. He hasn't bolted with it all day. Nicely painted. Navigator's doing his job. Handles those corners really well. There goes the time. Look, he has bettered the time. It's a 1:07.50.
Well, amazing. We said he needs a 1.7.5, and he goes straight out and does a 1.7.5. You might just get in. So out of the commentary box and straight into the boat, Mark Cromie. The pink glove there on the hand of his wife Cheryl, navigating. Give you a driver's point of view. Now it's this first half of the course that he needs to quicken up. Off a relatively slow split time in his last round of 35.46, he came up with a 1:8.66. He thinks there's a half second at least in the first half of his course, and he needs about a second in the last half. So he'll be looking for a time in the low 7s, 1.72 or somewhere around there. Mark Terry with a 1.75 and Greg Tulett with a 1.8.96 so far in this round of 8, where we have 4 at the end of it. Now he's had this second part of the circuit really quite well worked out so far. Little Hamilton hull seems to handle crossing its own weight quite well as he sprints up to the line at 1:5:38. Oh, great time. Now this fella's a past master at sprinting. Colin McCall has enormous experience in the boat. And this is the little short 12'6" Hamilton hull with Donovan Chev, 400 cubic inch V8. Colin McCall would want a split time in the 33s. 32:38, that's great time. 32:38, so the split should bring him round in the 1/4s.
And they just tend to cross over their own weight a wee bit. That little boat, it's a wee bit untidy.
Certainly bounces around on that little point, and he loses a bit of time, 1:07. Would you believe we haven't got a stop pulse on that clock, and it may be a rerun. So they've credited Colin McCall with a 1:5:74, which becomes the second quickest time behind Mark Cromie so far. Now here's the other driver in Mark Cromie's boat. This is Ross Kircher, who had a 1:75.
And Ross handled that peg 4 very well. Now it's very shallow here up at the top. Look at it. It's bouldering straight over the top. Round into peg 5. The AC Delco boat is really handling it very well. You've just got to be aggressive and be very wild when you drive it.
33:12, so he's a little bit quicker than you, Mark.
Yeah, he's put the fastest, but he's really put the pressure on me today with the fastest split time than that. It's interesting to see whether he loses it on the last run home or he's beating in the first, but now he's really going into this corner well.
There's an amazing improvement, 33:12 from the 35s on that split.
This boat's always been able to improve and put better times out when the pressure's on.
Time to beat 1:8.96 at the moment, coming down
and
all the time.
Look at that for a time, 1:4.44.
On course now is Morrell McKenzie in the Mackraft, had a 1:6.70 to get in here, third fastest qualifier.
Well, Morrell's pretty capable. He knows he can go fast. That boat's got a lot of potential. It makes up a lot of time through that trap.
That's an interesting way of handling that little bit of the circuit.
But Morrell knows how to handle that boat. He's been sprinting that hull for a few years and he really knows how to handle it. Look at that, round the 5. He's cutting in the corner very well.
It's amazing the number of different lines you see from different drivers.
Yeah, well, every boat has its own technique out there of spinning up in shallows or pulling out of holes better. So as a driver, if you get to know exactly what your machine does, you'll get around the fastest around the course.
32:60 was the split time, by the way.
Well, that's the fastest split time today, so I can tell you this boat is fast. But I think the Mackraft loses on his last little run. It's a bit untidy usually round that peg there.
So he's on a very similar split time to Colin McCall, which gave him a 1:5, and he's got a 1:48. Rodney Pohio on course, second fastest qualifier with a 1:5.98. And at the moment, he needs to bet a 1:5.74 to stay in.
Yeah, but Rodney always does that. I mean, I've been sprinting a long time, and Rodney puts up times. He knows what he has to do. He's very experienced at sprinting. His boat handles nice. He's very calm and cool. His sister's very light. The other got a good motor combination.
His sister Joanna, talking to her this morning, said this is one of the most difficult circuits to navigate that she's been on a sprint course. Between the two of them, they call every gate.
Well, if you lose concentration slightly, it's all over.
In the 32s with the split again, so this is going to bring him out in the 4s. It may just drop Colin McCall out.
Yeah, but we have found him faster through the split, and it's the second one home that he does slow down a wee bit.
It'll be intriguing to see what he can do with this last little piece. Rodney Pohio, who always drives so smoothly and makes straight lines out of corners.
Oh, look at that for a time. 1:03.58. Woohoo!
Ken Macdonald on course now, and he may be able to knock you out of this, Mark Cromie, because the time to beat has become yours, 1:5.38.
Yeah, Tony, I'm really sweating. The sweat's running off my head there. And we'll look at a split time, and he's strike. I reckon he's had a lot of slip just around those corners. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of split time he's going to put up.
Well, they completely destroyed a stator earlier today.
Yeah, I know.
So they've been replacing parts on that jet, curiously. It doesn't handle the stones too well, the alloy bits. They've gone for some harder materials now. 32.42 is not bad.
It's a pretty good split time.
And again, this is the boat that has a little difficulty crossing its own weight in the very last stages of the course. Very, very quick in a straight line. Amazing horsepower. But he needs 1:5:38 to knock Mark Cromie out.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm sitting here watching the time rolling, and he's certainly doing a good job of it too. And I think he'll do it. It looks like it. Yes, he's on the way home there too. And he's knocked me out at 1:04.40.
Doesn't matter, we got a full-time commentator. 1:4:40 puts him in and Mark Cromie out. Well, it's a cutthroat business when you get to the quarter-final stage, and out of the quarter-final, the 4 semi-finalists are Rodney Pohio setting a phenomenal pace at 1:3:58, Ken Macdonald, then Ross Kircher and Morrell McKenzie.
Strangely enough, it has been the competitors in this sport rather than the administration who've been the innovators in terms of safety equipment. Like the roll cage, you can roll over very easily in one of these events. If you have a roll cage, there's not a lot of point unless you're restrained in the boat, so the 4-point safety harness. A neck brace here to stop your head rocking from side to side. The arm restraints, which prevent your arms, when the boat does roll, from flying out of the boat. The full-face helmet. Seats here that are fireproof. Fire extinguisher systems that can be operated from inside the boat or from outside it by somebody else. A fuel system which has a bladder inside the tank to prevent that from damage or explosion on impact. But strangely, as I said, the only things that are compulsory are the roll cage, the seat belts and the helmet.
Now let's see if our boat builder from Bluff can come up with a good enough time to get him through to the final.
I've seen Morrell do some pretty good things when it comes to these final 4. He knows what he has to do. He has to put that machine through the fastest way he can get round that course, and that boat does handle that peg 4 very, very well.
It's amazing. It certainly gets traction, doesn't it?
I'll be interested to see what his split time will do, because that will really tell us whether he's going faster the first stage or the second stage.
32.60 was a split on the last one, which gave a 1:4.80.
Yeah, well, the boat's handling well. He's not backing off it very much at all, but he knows he's got that. There is 32.54. That's a pretty good split time.
Yeah, that's a fraction improvement on the last round, so he should be down, if he's lucky, in the 1-3s, if he can get this last half right.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. The last few corners do make the Mackraft pretty hard for it, jumping over its own weight, but I must admit this boat is handling it very well. Very fine line through there.
My goodness, isn't he aggressive?
I think you'll be in for a 1-2. No, you're not. You're in for a 1-3.94.
Can't afford to muck around now, Ross Kircher. He needs to beat 1:3.94 at this stage.
Yeah, well, Ross is driving the AC Delco sprint boat. He's been handling it very, very well today. He has to drive it aggressively. He can't afford to lose time even around this peg, and he hit the bank.
Just 2 hot shots left. Ken Macdonald is one of them. Ken Macdonald came in with a 1:4.40, and he needs now a 1:3.94.
Yeah, but Ken's a really good hot shot. The pressure's on Ken, usually performs with the best. He went wide around that corner. That's a quick split time. Fastest split time today, 31 seconds.
That should bring him back in about a 1:02.
This new Hamilton 123, I should say, certainly is handling this course. He knows how to drive the boat. He's been experiencing the handling of it with the new motor, a lot more horsepower, and it does need horsepower to drive a smaller hull. Tight round, he has trouble in this wake, I know, but now look at the time. He will post a time of 1:03.78.
So it's down to Rodney Pohio or Morrell McKenzie. 1:3.78. Looks like it will put Ken Macdonald in. So the man who now has the challenge of putting Morrell McKenzie out, because one finalist will be Ken Macdonald, is Rodney Pohio.
Yeah, but Rodney is a man that pulls out times out of the bag, and I reckon you'll see Rodney come through at a 1-1 or a 1-2, because he knows that he can do it.
He was one of the few earlier in the day who didn't think that you could better a minute on this course. So I'll be intrigued to see how close he can get to a minute.
I don't think he'll beat a minute either, but he hit shingle and he's out. That just shows you, Tony, it only took that little bit of shingle. The pressure's really on, but, you know, they gave it their best shot.
This is exactly what happened a couple of weeks ago at Wellington.
That's right. Now, you'll see what happens. This channel up the top here is very, very thin. Now, what he should have done is set it up now to take a left-hand corner. Now, he fired it right, hit stones about there, and then he was offline. See that? And then he couldn't gain control before he was out on the other side of the river. But it is very, very thin. But, you know, the guy's given it his best shot, and he certainly did that.
Well, as you can see, the two finalists, absolutely nothing between them. The boat on your left, which is Ken Macdonald's, has the Donovan Chev in it, and it's a very, very short hull. And on your right is Morrell McKenzie, and I think that what it's going to come down to is horsepower.
Yeah, I must admit, Colin's a very, very good driver. He's cool, he's calm, but he's got a lot more horsepower in his head. But Morrell always pulls one out of the bag too. But that's 700 horsepower against what, 500 horsepower? And a lot lighter, so... but it's a handful to handle 700 horsepower.
First to go is going to be Morrell McKenzie in the Mackraft. And Morrell McKenzie had a 1.48. And then he came in with a 1.394 in the semi. And he's got Ken Macdonald to beat. So the pressure is really on the man going first, not only to complete the course, but to put up a time that the last fella can't beat.
Yeah, that's hard to do when you go out first, because if you run aground or anything happens, the other guy just has to put a respectable time up. But I don't think, I nearly said I don't think Morrell's going to run aground, but he did go wide on that corner.
Very nearly lost the traction there, didn't he? Very hard with these little delays and stuff between rounds to keep the concentration. Morrell McKenzie is a very, very cool customer and a man of few words anyway.
His split time's a wee bit slower at 32.68, so I think he's going for a clean run. And Colin will, I reckon Colin will better the time. Look at the way that boat handles. It looks beautiful on the water. They're smiling. You see them smiling. I think they're enjoying themselves, don't you?
He always has that look of glee on his face. It seems to be what brings out the aggression.
Both these boats are small and short, and they have a wee bit of trouble crossing the wake, so but he did it really well. But see, his time is down. It's a 1:05.32.
The point is, though, that he has posted a time. Now, you won't see any stress on the face of this fellow. He's an amazing competitor. Ken Macdonald with 700 horsepower. 1:03.78 to get him in here. And now he's got to beat 1:05.32. He knows he can do it. He knows the boat can do it. It's just that he's got to do it now.
Look at his wife here. Come on. She's putting him round this course as fast as he can get round here. Now he's dealing to this corner. Look at it. He didn't go wide round here. I reckon he's going to have a very, very good time.
Well, the split time's going to tell us straight away, because 32.68 was Morrell McKenzie's.
He did hit those stones too that Pohio hit before, but he gained control.
Doesn't seem to have bogged up his grill, does it?
You watch this for a split time. I reckon it'll be 31, 32. There it is, 32.04.
32.04, so he is quicker. Not that much, and he's going to have to get the second half right.
It's not going to be much. I think there won't even be a half a second. This boat looks nice. Ken's driving it very well. Look at his wife pointing everywhere. She wants to win this desperately.
He's been very, very quick in several of the sprints that we've done. But he seems to have just missed out at the last moment.
Hamilton should have to be impressed with this hull. This 1, 2, 3 and a 1:04.46.
And that will do it. Ken Macdonald wins the Europa Jetsprint. So just looking at the latter stages of this course, driven beautifully by a very cool Ken Macdonald. The finishing time of 1:04.46 off a split of 32.04 beats Morrell McKenzie's 1:05.32. A well-deserved victory for Ken Macdonald. Beautifully driven. He didn't get sucked into a silly contest when he'd seen Morrell McKenzie's time. He knew that the boat and himself were both capable of beating that time. And there it is, 1:04.46. Ken Macdonald the winner.